Homework was moderation of speech, sleep, and food, so that we create a balance so that these things don't disturb us in meditation. We had meditation class yesterday in the ashram, and one of the questions was sleep. See, the sleep is a huge obstacle in meditation. First obstacle, recurring obstacle in meditation. And so to make sure that we've slept enough, not too much, because if we sleep too much, mind will be dull and we won't be able to meditate. And if we've slept too little, we're going to fall asleep in meditation because we need the sleep. It's body requires a certain amount. So to balance it doesn't solve the problem of sleep in the meditation, but helps. Definitely helps. At least you know you're not sleeping because you need to sleep. So regulation of sleep. Regulation of food. Again, if I'm too hungry, I can't meditate. I'll be sitting there the entire time thinking I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. If I've eaten too much, I'll sleep in meditation. So even food is quite a necessity for us to balance, but even without meditating, even in terms of when we're working, to have optimum level of concentration and efficiency, we don't need too much, don't need too little. And then speech. We don't see the effect of speech as easily as we can see the effect of food and sleep. Sleep we can easily see the effect of because we are tired or we're not tired. Food we can see the effect of because we feel heavy, we don't feel heavy. Speech we don't necessarily see the effect of so easily because we don't notice how much speech tires us. Our constant talking, but it also matters what we say. Yeah, the kind of conversation we're having will definitely dissipate our energies if the conversation is not very sattvic. So speech ends up tiring us. Also speech, because it's a language and our mind is basically language. We usually think in terms of language. We do think in terms of pictures as well. And we do think in terms of numbers, but primarily we think in terms of language. When we're talking to ourselves throughout the day, it's language. We're using language. And so since the mind is pretty much made up of the language that we are thinking in, whatever we end up using in terms of our speech becomes habit of what we are thinking. And so when we sit in the seat of meditation, those are going to recur. Whatever we've spoken about is what comes up in our awareness. It's the things we remember and it's the things we replay. So not quantity, but definitely quality of speech is incredibly important. And purifying our speech is also incredibly important, which we can do by japa, chanting the name of the Lord. Okay, so speech, food, and sleep. Brahmacharya basically boils down to these three things. It's many things. We have to control many, many things. It's not as easy as just these three, but these three already are tricky enough to work on. And some of us will find some of it easy. So personally, for me, because Gurudev has put me in this wonderful position of taking satsang, speech gets taken care of. I'm taking satsang, I'm talking about satsang. People will talk to me about satsang related things. Very rare they'll talk to me about other things. Sometimes a little bit here, there. Sleep is the tricky one for me. So people will find there'll be one that's more work for you, either food or speech or sleep. One will be a constant tapas. It's the one that you just have to keep working at it. It's not that you can done. That doesn't happen. Okay, so last week we saw, did we see 11? We saw number 10. We spoke about solitude. And then we spoke quite a bit about this self-control, right? We've seen 11.
Reach 15. 15, I think we have reached only.
Yeah, even my stick is on 15.
Yeah.
I think we had gotten so far. 14, we spoke about fearlessness. We did. And balance. Awesome. Okay. 15, Yunjan eva sadatmanam. Yoginiyata manasa. Shantim nirvana paramam. Mat samstam adigachyati. We did that also, didn't we? Yes. We spoke about nirvana. Natyas natastu yogisti, yogasti. Nachekantam anastanataha. Nachati swapnashilasya. Jagrato neva charjuna. Yuktahara viharasya. Yuktachetasya karmashu. Yukta swapna vibodasya. Yogi bhavati dukkha. So this is just what we just mentioned now. We don't eat too much. We don't eat little, too little. Don't sleep too much. Don't sleep too little. That's 16. Yuktahara. Yukta means to unite, as you all know. And so to create this sense of moderation, popularly known as the middle path, usually associated with Gautam Buddha. But you must remember the Gita was written way before, and all these concepts were already alive. And every great master that comes speaks eternal truth that was already always there. So only when we become yukta and we have been able to live in this kind of balance, yogo bhavati dukkha, are we able to cross over or destroy pain, sorrow. Okay, so the story is pretty well known. Gautam Buddha was Prince Siddhartha. In the palace, he lived an incredible life of pleasure. His father was foretold at his birth that he would either be a great king or a great renunciate. But either way, he would rule the world. And so naturally, the father wanted him to be a great king and did not want him to renounce. And so too, the story is that he never saw death, but I don't know if that would even be possible. But the father did make sure his life was incredibly comfortable. And so there was a lot of pleasure that was easily available to him. And so for the first 20 years of his life, there was immense pleasure and comfort. But the calling of the spirituality within him, he leaves. He literally leaves at night and rides off. And when he gets to the forest, he meets a group of ascetics. And so he asked them to teach them how to pursue spirituality. And they said the path of austerity, which we see in India. Many people performing incredible austerities. And so he did. He went from 100% life of comfort to 100% austerity. So firstly, you must remember his body would be in shock. And part of the austerity was they didn't eat and didn't drink. And exposed to the elements of nature, which can be quite harsh. To be in direct sunlight constantly all through, so many of us, we get headache, we get dehydrated, so, to live that life of tapas. And he had come to the point of not being able to stand up. He was that weak because he hadn't had enough food and he had been not sleeping and he had been doing all this very severe austerities. And he was about to lose consciousness when he finally decided to have a sip of water. He drags himself to the river to be able to sip the water. And on a boat in the river, a music teacher was teaching the students on how to tie the strings of a veena. And so it wasn't even that the guru was teaching him. Some guru was teaching some student and he heard. And this is how we say that God always sends us what we need. And even when people say he didn't have a guru, of course he did. Because he learned from all these little snippets of things that came his way. Maybe he didn't have one guru, but he learned. And he understood from different masters and different teachings and different experiences. So when you're tying any musical instrument, if you tie it too tight, it easily snaps. And if you tie it too loose, the music doesn't come. The sound doesn't come when you strum the instrument. And so it was not too tight, not too loose, was the instruction that the guru was giving the student on how to tie the strings of either it was a veena or a sitar, it was a string instrument. And in a flash, he understood that discipline is like these strings. And the veena is like our mind. And so if we tie it too tight, it will snap, which he was about to. He fell unconscious. I think he did fall unconscious, or almost fell unconscious. So he had tied it too tight and now he wasn't able to do anything. And if you tie it too loose, like his life in the palace, you can't play music through it. So this idea of finding middle ground in everything we do, starting with food, sleep, and speech. But then it goes out even further. It's not just, it would be even how much, in today's world, it would definitely apply to our technology. It would apply to our phone and how much time we spend on the phone, or how much time we spend with TV, music. Today, a lot of our control is because it's so incredibly easily available. Yeah. And then how much we spend on different things. We collect. Like today, you can order everything online. You don't even have to leave your house. So people just click, 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 click. Like at least if you had to walk out of your house, go to the shop, see the item, pick it up, it was little effort. This is no effort. We all walk around with phones and you can buy anything at any time on the phone or now. And so much the impulse, in supermarkets when you go, they'll have all the candy and all of that at the counter because it's called impulse buying. And it works because we are impulsive creatures. And now with modern technology, the control is of that impulse. So in terms of buying control, in terms of enjoying control, and in terms of saying things, impulse controls all of these, right? We'll get the sudden impulse to just say something. We don't need to say it. Or to buy something, or to eat something, do something, listen to something, watch something. And so this whole idea is, Gurudev would liken it to putting, what do they call them? When you come into a country, you have to go through customs. Yeah, and some countries have very strict customs, right? You can't just bring anything in. Some countries are a little bit lax. Hong Kong used to be lax. Places like Australia, so strict. They even have TV shows about how strict the Australian customs is. I don't know why people would want to sit and watch that. They're watching people go through customs and seeing all the weird stuff they're bringing into the country. How we entertained is really weird. Okay, so in terms of our mind, Gurudev would say we have to have customs officers at all our checkpoints. Where are things coming in from? Eyes, ears, tongue, nose, and touch. And so if the gate is open, just anything comes in, right? No control. So we need to put customs officers to check. Should this come in? If it shouldn't come in, don't allow. Keep it out. And so this is that idea of control, or maybe not control, but moderation. Whatever it is that we decide to indulge. The previous week's homework, or I think it was last week's homework, 1 bite before you fall, right? That was last week? Yeah. Not that anyone did. Doesn't look like anyone did. I did, huh? Anyways, topic of moderation keeps coming in the Gita. Let's see. But it really does affect how the meditation goes. So many times we think sit straight, close eyes, that is meditation. But how we live our lives will determine what happens when we close eyes and sit straight. And very often how we live our lives not only determine how the meditation goes, but it determines how alert we stay during the day to catch. Because, if we meditate 20 minutes, even 1 hour, that's still 23 hours that we're not meditating. That's a huge, significant amount of time. But when we live this way, constantly monitoring and constantly finding balance, then that's so much more time in the day where we are proactively working on the quality and quantity of our thoughts, which then becomes an open eye way of meditating, because it makes us aware and it makes us alert. And this quality of awareness and this quality of alertness is what's crucial in meditation, and not always easy. So if we're practicing throughout the day, be aware, be alert, be aware, be alert. I'm about to eat this, be aware what I'm eating, be alert how much I'm eating. Have I reached 1 bite before full? It has to be so, your mind has to be constantly aware, constantly alert. Then you cultivate that quality. You become good at that quality. Become good at the quality of discipline. You become good at the quality of monitoring and balancing and adjusting. And that's the quality we need when we are meditating, because a thought will come, be aware of the thought, and then no need for this thought, let it go. But if we're not aware that the thought has come, we think so many things. 5 minutes later, we were like, oh, wait, what am I thinking about? I was supposed to be meditating. That's 5 minutes later is lucky. Sometimes the whole 20-minute meditation is over and then you think, but I didn't actually meditate. The whole time I was just thinking about something random because the mind wasn't aware, wasn't alert. That quality of staying aware and staying alert can't be only the 20 minutes or the 1 hour we're sitting for meditation. It has to be something that we cultivate throughout the day so that we can do it in those 20 minutes or 1 hour or whatever it is that we are doing. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyeva vasishtatyate nispruha sarvakamebhya yukta ityuchyate tada. This person who is yukta is free from nispraha is the word, right? Used here. Nispraha is when we have that longing. Yeah. You can switch this one off. Okay, so much of who we are is our desires. The way we live our lives will be totally controlled by our desires. So we wake up in the morning and what's the first thing we do? For a lot of people, it will be bodily functions dictate, right? Either bath, either bathroom. And that's a desire. We're seeking release or we're seeking cleanliness. Then what do? Again, majority of people, tea or coffee, or protein shake or juice or detox or whatever. Why? Desire. So physiological desires, like going to the bathroom. Then of course, desire for whatever comfort or stimulant we think we need. Then what do? Of course, at this point, everyone will do slightly something different. What will you do? Will be based completely on desire. So if you go through your day, from the very moment you wake up, is there anything in the day you do that you don't desire? Routine, like? Go to office. There's no desire in going to office? Of course, making money is the desire. Maintaining the job in today's depressed economy would be a desire. Livelihood is desire.
And what about going to the kitchen?
Why do you go kitchen?
Make something.
Desire, right? You only want to eat. Or you only want to feed. Think of one thing you do in the day that's not motivated by desire. I'll be impressed. Breathing's not motivated by desire, seriously. You won't do it if you don't desire it. If you don't want to meditate, you won't meditate. So many don't. 7.8 billion people, hardly anyone meditates. Decide to remove desire, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that our entire day is us being pushed by our desire. Yeah. If we do our hair, it's out of desire. We don't do our hair, it's out of desire. We meet someone, it's out of desire. We don't meet someone, it's out of desire. So, to really understand that desire is this pull. You know, we hear the word in spirituality so much. You'll hear me say desire so many times. To really understand how it pulls us. Now we're physically doing things because of desire, like go to the bathroom and eat, which is physical desires, but also meeting people because it's a physical desire, or going to the office because there's a desire. So physically we are doing so many things because of desire. But desire isn't so much physical as it is a longing of the mind. So even something like physically switch off AC, body isn't demanding it as much as mind is demanding it. Here, Swami Tapanji Maharaj used to live in the Himalayas, high up in the Himalayas in Uttarkashi. So if you go to Uttarkashi, it's never hot because you're so high up. So it can be warm where you don't need a sweater or something, but the minute the sun sets, it's freezing because you're so high up. And most of the year, you need something to cover yourself. Well, we do. Tapanji Maharaj didn't wear. He didn't wear jackets, he didn't wear jumper, he didn't wear. And then he'd go even higher, he'd go to Gomok. Now Gomok though is freezing, it's glaciers. You're living on a glacier. His room in Gomok is surrounded by glaciers. When people would invite Tapanji Maharaj to come and sit next to the fire to get warm, he would say, no, that's a sense indulgent. It's not our body that's demanding, it's our mind that will demand. So even the physical desires we feel, hunger, cold, heat, bathroom, all of that, it's the mind that determines. Sure, the body will have a certain requirement, sure, but so much more of it we experience in the mind. And then there's so many desires that has got nothing to do with the well-being of our body. Like I mentioned, doing hair, or eating specific kind of food, or meeting people, or wanting to know gossip, or wanting, power, success, fame, name. So what was I saying? Desire pulls us or pushes us, but it definitely causes movement. Desire causes movement. And the desire is this longing that happens in our mind. And so it manifests, usually it's a vasana, and it manifests as thoughts. So when we sit for meditation, there is thoughts. What thoughts are we thinking when we're meditating?
What we desire.
Yeah, it will be desires. It's not even what we desire most. Sometimes it's not such a strong desire. And that's the sad part. But of course, if there's a strong desire, everyone's at different stages in their lives, but if it's a single person wanting to get married, that desire is so strong. Or a young couple wanting child, gosh, that desire is so strong. What we need to be able to understand is how it pulls or pushes. So here I am sitting in the seat of meditation, trying to not think thoughts. And the thing I'm working against is my own mind, which is filled with desires. And desires will lead to thoughts. So who created all the thoughts in my mind? Vasanas. Me, guys, me. Who's desiring all these things? Somebody else is desiring all these things. Me, right? I'm desiring all these things. So desire is thought manufacturing factory. One desire will manufacture so many thoughts. Do I have only one desire? No, 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 no. I'll have so many desires. That means I'll have so many thoughts. So when I sit for meditation, what's going to happen? Plenty of thoughts. Why? Because I'm producing them by constantly entertaining desires. And constantly creating new desires. And in today's world, social media helps us create new desires. You watch one thing, they'll show you the preview for the next thing. You're researching, doing work, but the ad will pop up based on things you only looked at previously. The ashram computer gets used by so many different people. So sometimes I'll be working on the computer and some ad will come and I'll think, who Googled this now? Remember once there was so many sports, all soccer, all these soccer jackets, all these soccer things. Some teenager probably watched some soccer thing on the computer and then all those ads only came. Fortunately, nothing too scandalous ever comes. It will be innocent only. It will be Bollywood, which I don't watch. So when Bollywood turns up on the computer, somebody else has Googled it. Is it a treat for me? But that doesn't happen for our mind. Right? Ashram computer, so many people are using, so different things pop up. But in our mind, what will pop up? Only what we keep thinking. Sometimes it's entertaining, sometimes it's not, to answer your question. Sometimes I'm focused, it's like, don't do it. So the main quality, when we were talking about self-control and balance, not too much food, not too little food, what we're really doing is managing desire, because body will desire food, body will desire speech, and we do desire interaction with each other through speech. We don't even think of these things as desire. We think of them as necessity, but we don't live in the way that they are necessity. We live in a way that they are all desires. And so not too much, not too little is getting a grip on the very basic desires that we live our lives by, which is constantly ruling our day. Then we have to slowly start getting a grip on all the bigger desires. So the biggest, the scriptures guide us that basically 3. Of course, there's so many, but basically you can boil them down to 3. Kamani, Kanchana, and Kirti. What are the things we desire? Kamani is pleasure. So, comfortable seat, nice clothes, helper to do the dishes so you don't have to. All these are comforts. The Wi-Fi speed is too slow. We'll complain so much if the Wi-Fi speed is too low. We'll complain even more if there's no Wi-Fi. If we have to wait a little bit for Wi-Fi, what's the big deal? No, it has to be super efficient, super fast, super, because the desire, we have to recognize it as desire. We don't even recognize it as desire. We just think it's a necessity. We think it's normal. Yes, it's normal. Maybe we need it, maybe we don't need it, but what we do definitely need to do is recognize it as a desire. Okay, so then pleasure. All of this is pleasure. Please note Wi-Fi was under pleasure. Kanchana translates to gold, but it means our desire for power. We all want power. So our desire for money, more often than not, is linked to power. Sometimes it's linked to security, but even security means I have power over my own life, right? Even if I say, no, I don't want to be rich. I just want to have enough to look after me and my family. If I get sick, I should be able to provide for them. I should always have a roof over my head. I should be able to put food on the table. I'm not asking for much, but that's me not being vulnerable. That's me not needing somebody else, which means power. But we don't want only that much power. We want more power. I should be able to give nice things to all people, that when I have to give presents, power. And people should listen when I talk. If they don't listen to me, I don't like it. So we want that power. And then we'll all have. In Asia, we have staff, helpers, drivers, errand boys. We enjoy that power to different degrees. Some people really enjoy that power. And somebody was visiting the other day who doesn't live here, and the one sibling lives here in Hong Kong, the other sibling doesn't live here in Hong Kong, young, early 20s. So sister was teasing brother that he called the helper to his room to switch off the light. And she made fun of him for a whole 10 minutes. Siblings, right? Nice banter it was. Turns out he had had an operation and he couldn't move. And so it was completely justified that he did it. But she was still giving him so much grief over it. But it's that having the power that I can tell someone to do something and they will do it. We want that power. So usually the power is over people more than circumstances, but of course we want power over things. So first one is pleasure, enjoyment, but we enjoy power more than enjoyment of food and massage. Of course, those also we enjoy, but when people give us man, we enjoy that much more. And kirti, kirti is actually man is kirti. What's the English word for man? In Chinese,
Prestige?
kowtow, right? In Chinese, they say kowtow. I'm saying it wrong.
Honor.
Honor,
Respect?
respect. It's not really respect. I might not like you, but I say all the right things to you because you have the power. I might not respect you. Like a lot of times in schools, the kids don't like the teachers. Why in schools? Even my Bal Vihar, they don't necessarily like me, but they have to listen. When you do this, like when you keep them happy.
Obedience? Obedience in the school?
No. You must kind. It's buttering. It's not obedience. It's giving face. Giving face. Yeah. So kirti has to do with, actually no, that has to do with kanchana. When we give face, or when we give man. Kirti has to do with I am well-known, fame. So my reach is even further. Right? So people know me. People admire me. So that's after we get power, then what we want is fame. Because fame's a whole new level of power, right? Yeah. And you'll see it in the smallest things, like today with Instagram, how many likes they get, how many views they get, or how quickly they get. So these celebrities, when they post something, within 5 minutes, they'll get 100,000 views. And so that's fame. So until we have enough power, we won't want fame. It's a hierarchy. If I have kamani, comforts, then I aspire towards kanchana. When I have kanchana, I aspire towards kirti. The higher or the more subtle it is, the harder it is to conquer. So which is the easiest to conquer? Pleasures. That's why we start with food, sleep, and speech. But in meditation, which will be the thoughts that bug you? Kanchana and kirti. Somebody says something about you. Oh, so restless we become. Why kirti? I should be liked by all and sundry. I should be well known. This, even if I'm not particularly good, I should still be well known. This is the interesting thing about us. We're not putting effort to actually be good, but everyone should think of us as good. Of course, some people do. Some people put in effort to be good. But there's so many who don't. Still, they should be thought of as good in whichever way that they define as good. So the desire for these three things, these three are supposed to categorize all the desires we have. This is what generates our thoughts. So this week, as you meditate, notice every thought that comes, which desire is it linked to? Kamini, Kanchana, Kirti. And you'll say, no, there's some thoughts, just I have to go pick up the supermarket. Link it back. Which desire is that?
Kamini.
Yeah, correct. Or power. I don't have somebody to do it for me. Poor me, I have to do it myself. Each one of us will be different. We'll have to notice. We'll have to see again here. One will be a stronger attachment at this point in our journey. Notice how everything we are thinking can be linked back to a desire. And so what we are doing in satsang is slowly trying to divinize our desires. Make the desire for the Lord. Make the desire for being able to purify our mind. Make the desire for seva. Make the desire for satsang. Yeah. Then at least if I can keep thinking about all these things, they're worthwhile thoughts to have. At least it's taking me closer and closer and closer to not having these desires of Kamini, Kanchana, and Kirti. But they're tricky. These desires are very, very tricky. They change shapes, they appear. We make such beautiful excuses for having our desires. We really come up with very good excuses. So even that you notice this week. That when you recognize that you have a desire, are you making an excuse? But this is a normal desire. Everybody desires this. Or, it's a necessity, it's not a desire. I'm getting old now. I can't do things as well. Need somebody else to do it for me. Notice also how we make excuses for the desires that we have. Sometimes we don't even want to acknowledge that we have that desire or that weakness. And sometimes we see it very clearly, but we justify it. And then there's no need to. There's really no need to justify anything because we're not answering to anyone else. Spirituality is me looking at myself. Nobody else is involved in the process. So if I'm justifying it, it's me not dealing with me making excuses to me. Because the rest of the world, it really doesn't matter. The rest of the world doesn't care how quiet your meditation is. They only care how quiet their meditation is. So this is why also solitude, to be able to spend time, to be able to see our own desires, to understand our own desires, and to see how much they pull me into the world. So physically, I get up and I go and I do things in the world because of the desire. But sometimes it's not a physical going into the world. It's a pulling of a thought, right? And so that thought just keeps coming back. I'm not able to shake the thought. It's like the thought is on repeat loop. Today it's called boomerang, but our generation knows it as that record when it has a cut on it and then it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. That's what happens with the thought in our head. And why does that thought go on loop? It's that pull of the desire that's so strong that I repeat that thought so many times in my mind. And then it becomes this vicious cycle because the more I repeat that thought in my mind, the stronger that desire becomes. And eventually I will get up and I will physically do something. Just because the momentum of that thought is so strong that it will propel movement. So desire is momentum of thought that is pushing us into the world outside. For us to be able to see that very clearly. Any questions?
What about the past thoughts? You're sitting from meditation, past
Memories. In meditation, when we have memories, probably it's something we enjoyed or something we regret. Usually it will be linked to an emotion. If I remember something in meditation, it's usually linked to an emotion or something happened currently that's reminding me of that incident. So we revisit emotions often. So this is another interesting thing that happens to us. Thoughts generally have momentum, but each thought has a charge. If you think about it in terms of electricity, high voltage, low voltage, and literally our body generates electricity by how much we think, literally, which is phenomenal. Energy, maybe not electricity. Our body generates, our mind generates energy by the type of things we think and how much we think. So every thought has a charge. And emotional thoughts have a much stronger charge. So if I go to, if we go back to, I need to go to the supermarket, that's not going to be a very charged thought. But somebody said something to me, they insulted me, or they insinuated something, and then I'm upset, embarrassed, hurt, feel betrayed. Feel betrayed is very big. The charge on a feel betrayed thought is huge. Even remotely upset, how can you say that to me, is already more charge. So emotions have a higher charge. So when we sit for meditation, the things we tend to remember are the thoughts that have stronger charge, which will either be linked to an emotion or something that has just been repeated very frequently. So a thought might not have charge, but the more I think it, the stronger the charge becomes on that thought, which is we use that technique to help us in meditation when we do japa. So if I say Om Namah Shivaya, there's no devotion, I'm distracted, I don't really care. So the thought doesn't have much charge. But then I keep saying it, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah. If I say it enough times, which is why we have to do at least 108, the momentum of that, or the frequency or the duration of saying it 108, now when I say Om Namah Shivaya, it's charged. And then we'll get to a point where I have to say it once, Om Namah Shivaya, and I'm completely in line and I'm completely in meditative state and I feel 100% devotion. That's how strong we want the charge of Om Namah Shivaya to be, which saints and saints have, right? There's stories of people like Kabir Das who would say Ram once and go into state of samadhi. Ramana Maharishi, he didn't even say God's name. He used to say Aham and go into the state of samadhi. Aham is me. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he was walking in a market in Calcutta. You can imagine, right? Calcutta, how busy, hectic. To be in a market in Calcutta, how busy, how hectic, how noisy, how many things are going on. And somebody called out Sham. Sham is Sri Krishna's name. It's also Kali Mata's name. Hearing that, somebody is calling somebody. They weren't even addressing him. In a market where so much is going on, he hears the word Sham, remembers Kali Mata, and goes into samadhi. How much charge that one name has. Either emotion, that much love he has, which in Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's case, that much love he has for Kali Mata that just her name can send him into samadhi. Or over a period of time, we've done enough tapas of it. So saints and sages like Vishwamitra, or no, not Vishwamitra. What's the other one? No, not Vashishta, who gave us the Gayatri mantra, right? Vashishta gave us the Gayatri mantra. No, Valmiki didn't give us Gayatri mantra.
Vishwamitra.
Vishwamitra gave us the Gayatri. So repetition of thought where the Gayatri was actually revealed to him, the mantra was revealed to him, the meaning was revealed to him, Gayatri Devi was revealed to him. Just from the thoughts being so charged. That scriptures revealed themselves to these rishis. Okay, so every thought, so desire will have different charges. A desire to go to bathroom will not be a highly charged thought. Unless I have some health issues, yes. That single person wanting to get married, that young couple wanting a child, or old elderly couple nowadays. Yeah. Wanting to see a loved one. Or if you've fallen in love, wanting to see your beloved. Oof, very charged thought. Lust, another one, very charged thought. Because body chemistry has completely changed. So thoughts are charged, different quantities, and definitely different qualities. Lust is a highly charged thought that can invoke so much in a person and cause them to do such incredible things. The same intensity Paramahamsa Ji had in devotion, probably higher. But the quality of that charge is very different. So with us, lust is a highly charged thought. How charged is our devotion? Is it anywhere near the intensity? Anger is a highly charged thought. How strong is our charge of devotion? If anger is up here and our devotion charge is down here, then it's quite a leap to make. So what will we remember? What will we think about? Usually highly charged thoughts, charged by desire or an emotion. Which category does what fall in?
Like, if you're thinking about the past or if you're thinking about the past.
Only you'll know what category it falls in. Kamana, Kanchana, Kirti. You'll have to decide what category it falls in. Gossip probably under power. We gossip because we want to pull other people down and we want to think very highly of ourselves. So it's Kanchana. Gossip is usually Kanchana. Yeah, we're constantly complaining about the government, aren't we? I would put that under pleasure. But you can think about how somebody who is very pursuing a political career, it might be Kanchana, it might be Kirti, but we do it out of whinge and feel good. Right? Like I said, students complain about their teacher. They just like to. Teacher might be good also. I promise you, I try my best, but they still complain.
Sometimes in meditation, when you're sitting, thoughts way past, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
They suddenly surface and you think, where did this come from?
Well, you don't have to understand where. If it's not a very charged thought, just let it go. We don't have to understand why it came or where it came. Understand desire and understand, is it charged, not charged? Let it go. If it's a charged thought, you might have to do something about it. So sometimes a thought will come from the past and maybe I need to forgive that person. So the charge is I'm still hurt, I'm still angry. That's why this memory has come back to me. So then I notice, I'm still feeling hurt, need to forgive. Or I remember something and it was so exciting. Now my life is so boring. Then it was so exciting. Recognize desire, I've gone old. I'm sad, I'm feeling that is not as exciting as it used to be. So, loss of pleasure, loss of status, loss of functionality, loss of whatever it is that I've lost. Just recognize what it is. Just recognize the desire and recognize how desire pulls us. So, so you must, I can't tell you which categories your thoughts fall in, darling. You have to see for yourself. Is it pleasure? Is it me wanting power? Maybe I'm bored. So what I want to be is entertained, which then means it's pleasure. If the thought is there, there has to be a desire. It can't just randomly come. That won't happen. Check first desire of pleasure, because that's the first most common one. Power is a little bit more, which is also there. Kirti is the trickiest one to know. Kirti is fame. Kirti is fame. People should think nicely of me, well of me. People should know who I am. That's Kirti. Power, you can be powerful but not want to be known. Yeah. Kirti is glory. Yeah. And I may want to just be powerful over you. Don't have to be powerful over so many people. You will do. You listen to me. Kirti, I want more and more and more. Kirti has a sense of greed. It's not enough. Even power will have a sense of greed. Not enough. Pleasure, of course, has a sense of greed.
Desire is not a good or bad thing, but
I didn't say it was good or bad. I said you can have good desires. Right, satsang?
the bad.
Huh? Yeah. Divinized desires. Divinized, that's, but we have to know what we're desiring before we divinize that. And we have to see how it's pulling us, pushing us. The knowing of me is knowing of my desires. Yes. Not difficult. It's exciting. Yes, Dishar.
Haren, Swami Energy. Good question about when we spoke about money earlier and the desire for money being underpinned by the desire for power. And while we've got this sort of Kanchan, Kamini and Kirti, how can we, or any suggestions, ideas on how we can divinize the desire for power, then ultimately divinizing the desire for money? Thank you.
So when we divinize the desire for power, it has to be power over myself. Me able to control my mind, me able to have complete control over sleep, food, speech, my movements, me able to not give in to my desire. So power of divinizing power is only me being able to control me, I don't need to control anybody else. And then also divinizing desire is me being able to give up. Sorry, divinizing the desire for power is me being able to give up power and say to the Lord, thy will, not mine. So I give up my power to the Lord because I trust his power more than my power. That's like the Lord gives us free will and choice. But the best thing we can do with our free will is tell him, no, you decide. Give it back to him. I'll do as you will, not as I will. Yes, Nirupama.
Swaminiji, Hari Om. See, desire for knowledge, more for inner peace, like what we are doing right now. All of us have desire to listen to you, to read the Bhagavad Gita. We would say it is for inner peace, but indirectly it could be for spiritual reasons. But prima facie, most of the humans would get in here because they are seeking some answers, trying to get some clarity, inner peace. So where would that be bucketed?
In terms of Kamini, Kirti, Kanchana?
Yes. Or is it there, or it's the fourth category?
No, it would be a fourth category. It would be wanting to return to my original nature, which is an inbuilt desire. So the example given to us in our scriptures is anything that is taken away from its nature will seek its nature. And the example is water. Water by nature is cool. And then if we heat up the water, the moment we switch it off from the gas, we switch off the gas or we take it off the gas, the water will start cooling again. So it goes back to its nature. And in the same way, we are seeking to go back to our nature. And our nature is peacefulness. Our nature is loving. Our nature is happiness. So the desire to go back to our nature is inbuilt and intrinsic and something we will follow.
Sure.
Which is, and it's a different category because the desires of Kamini, Kanchana, and Kirti are all desires that get created out of ignorance. I don't know that I am already peaceful, loving, and happy, and so I'm desiring it. And how do I desire to be happy? By pursuing Kamini, Kanchana, and Kirti. So Kamini, Kanchana, Kirti would be desires that are, I guess, under the category of delusion, ignorance, Maya. Whereas us seeking our true nature is a different kind of desire. It's following the law of, Sanatan Dharma. It's a universal law at play. We can't but seek our true nature.
Thank you.
We can not seek pleasure. We can not seek power. We can not seek fame, but we can't not seek our true nature. Nice question. We'll conclude. Time's up. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om.